I must do this before they wake up. These fruits belong to me tonight.
A long time ago, in a quiet Nigerian village called Okpulu, something very strange was happening. Farmers would wake up early, go to their farms, and return with angry faces. "My ripe palm kernels are gone," they shouted. It didn't happen once or twice. It happened every night. Freshly cut trees, no broken branches, no footprints, no sound, no trace, just empty trees and missing fruits. Who was doing it? Nobody knew. But deep in the forest, where no path led, there lived a small man. His name was Mbechi. Mbechi was a dwarf, very short and round, but stronger than most men. He had a tough face and thick arms. His fingers were wide, and his legs moved fast like a rat. He didn't live alone. He had a wife named Ngozi, also a dwarf. They built a small mud house far away from the village.
No visitor ever went there, but something happened every night. That night, the wind was soft. The sky was dark and cloudy. Mbechi sat on a short stool, cleaning his cutlass. Ngozi brought out his old sack. "Be quick," she said. "The night is deep already." Mbechi nodded. He tied his wrapper tight around his waist, took the sack, and stepped into the dark forest. He didn't walk like a thief. He walked like someone who knew every tree and corner in the bush. Mbechi reached the farm. It was quiet. Everyone was sleeping in the village. He dropped his sack and looked up. A tall palm tree stood in front of him, full of ripe red palm kernels. He smiled. In seconds, he climbed up using only his hands and legs. No rope, no noise. At the top, he whispered, "If you sleep, I'll take what's sweet. If you dream, I'll cut and eat."
I must do this before they wake up. These fruits belong to me tonight.
He climbed down quickly, tied it inside the sack, and lifted it on his head. With fast, light steps, he disappeared into the night, back to the forest. Before the first cock crowed, Mbechi and Ngozi arrived at the village market. They stood at the palm kernel line where traders came early to buy. Their sack was full of fresh, ripe palm kernels. Ngozi stood beside the basket. Mbechi kept quiet, watching people with sharp eyes. Buyers started to arrive. "Let me buy from these short people," one woman said. "This one is fresh," another said. Mbechi didn't say much. Ngozi just smiled. They sold and sold and sold. Their sack emptied before the sun fully came out, but no one knew. They were buying the same palm fruit that went missing from their own farms. Back in the village, that morning, 5 farmers shouted in anger, "My own too is gone. Even mine, I was waiting to harvest it today." The people looked around in confusion. Who is doing this? No one had an answer, because no one ever saw or heard anything. But far away in the forest, Mbechi and Ngozi were roasting palm nuts, smiling to themselves. Mbechi whispered to his wife, "They will never know, they will never see. I walk with the dark, the fruits belong to me." And so the mystery continued. Every night, trees were cut. Every morning, Mbechi and Ngozi stood at the line with ripe palm kernels and quiet smiles. And still, no one caught them.
For many weeks, Chief Agata had been losing palm kernel from his farm. Each time he went to the farm in the morning, he would find fresh palm kernel cut from the trees, but no sign of who did it. He asked his workers, but nobody had seen anything.
People in the village began to gossip. Some said it was a spirit. Others blamed local boys. But Chief Agata didn't believe in spirits. He decided to catch the thief with his own eyes. That night, the sky was dark and quiet. Chief Agata and his son, Oche, hid in the bush near one of the big palm trees. They carried long sticks and a lantern, but they kept it off. No light, no sound. They waited. Then, just after midnight, they heard it, climbing. Slow, steady. Crack, snap, cut. Something or someone was up the tree. Oche held his breath. Suddenly, they heard a heavy bunch of palm kernel fall to the ground. Thud! Another one followed. Thump! Then silence. Whoever it was had come prepared. Chief Agata whispered to his son, "Don't move. Let's catch him when he comes down." Soon, they saw the shape of a small man climbing down the tree. Very short, very fast. His head was big, his legs were strong, and he didn't know anybody was watching. He reached the ground, bent down, and began packing the ripe kernel into a sack. Then Chief Agata stood up sharply and shouted, "Thief! Stop there!" A bright torchlight flashed on the man's face, and for the first time ever, they saw him clearly. It was Mbechi the Dwarf Man. Mbechi looked up, saw the light, and screamed, "Eh, I'm dead!" He jumped up, grabbed the half-filled sack, placed it on his head, and started running without looking back. Ochi chased after him, shouting, "Catch him! Catch him!" From behind the cassava bush, another small figure ran out. Ngozi, his dwarf wife. She had been hiding nearby all along. She began gathering the scattered palm kernel, pouring them into a small basin. "Pick fast! Pick fast!" Mbechi shouted as he ran. Ngozi packed the last batch, lifted the basin on her head, and ran into the bush path, her wrapper flying loose behind her. The two of them disappeared into the darkness, running like scared animals. The next morning, the whole village gathered at Chief Agata's compound. He raised a torn piece of cloth and shouted, "Now we know who the thief is!" Everybody was shocked. Nobody suspected Mbechi the Dwarf Man and his wife. The elders were angry. The youth were ready to act. The women were whispering. And a plan was made. Tonight, we move. No more hiding, no more running. The whole village was on fire the next morning, not with flames, but with anger, shock, and shame. How could it be Mbechi, the small man with the round head and tiny legs? He had lived in the village forest for years with his wife Ngozi. Everyone thought they were harmless. They never talked much. They walked together like two small shadows. But now his secret had come out. He was the one stealing people's ripe palm kernel, sneaking into farms at midnight, climbing trees like a lizard, and escaping into the dark. That very day, the elders called a serious meeting under the big tree at the village square. Even people who hadn't attended meetings in years came out. Chief Agata stood up and spoke. "This is not just theft. It's wickedness. It's disrespect. We all trusted him." The village agreed. "Tonight," the elder said, "we move." That night, Mbechi and Ngozi were in their hut, quiet and tired. Their eyes were red. They had not slept well. Mbechi looked around their small compound. 2 empty sacks leaned against the wall. His short cutlass was hanging from the roof. His wife was sitting quietly, holding her knees. He whispered, "I think they saw me well last night." Ngozi replied,
We must leave this village before daybreak. But how? With what? Where will we go? As they were still talking, they heard footsteps from outside, then voices, then torches, then drums, the kind of drum that beats for shame. They both stood up at the same time. Run! Mbechi shouted. He grabbed one of the sacks and threw it on his shoulder. Ngozi picked her wrapper and ran barefooted into the back bush path behind their hut. But what they didn't know was that the youths had already blocked all the exits. This time, the village was ready. As they ran through the thick bush, trying to escape in the darkness, one boy shouted, "There! I see them!" The youths chased them, running fast. Mechi, even with short legs, ran as fast as his heart could carry him, but his sack was slowing him down. Ngozi tripped and fell, bruising her arm, but stood up and kept going. They ran past the riverbank. They ran past the old yam barn. They ran into the thickest part of the bush, but they didn't know that Chief Agata's son and 2 hunters were already waiting there. Suddenly, "Stop there!" Torchlights flashed, sticks raised. There was nowhere else to run. Mechi dropped his sack slowly and knelt down. Ngozi fell beside him, breathing fast, her wrapper half unwrapped, sweat on her face. "Please," Mechi said, raising his tiny hands. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disgrace my family. I was only hungry." One of the elders stepped forward. He was holding a long cane. "And the people you stole from, were they not hungry too?" Mechi looked down. Tears dropped from his eyes. Ngozi wiped her face with her palm. "Don't beat us. We will never do it again. We were just trying to survive." Back to the village. They tied their hands, not with rope, but with a long palm frond, as a sign of shame, and they were marched back into the village square. Women came out and hissed. Children pointed. Old men shook their heads. Chief Agata raised the sack and said, "This is the last time anyone in this village will steal and hide in darkness." The elders didn't take them to prison. They made them sweep the whole village square every morning for 14 days, and they were banned from entering anyone's farm ever again. Mechi and Ngozi lived in quiet shame from that day. Nobody greeted them again. Nobody bought anything from them at the market. Their faces became full of sadness. Their shops stayed closed, and the palm trees in the village grew in peace again. Moral lesson: stealing may give you quick gain, but it will also give you a name you will never wash off. No matter how small you are or how quiet, when you do evil, you will be caught. There is no shortcut in life that ends well. Hard work may be slow, but it will not disgrace you. Just like the Dwarf Man, Mechi, people may forget your smile, but they will never forget your shame.